back to another powerful episode of AIBiz. I'm your host Avik, and today we are diving into one of the most talked about topics in the world right now: artificial intelligence. But hold on, this isn't about the buzzwords, the scary headlines, or the overly complicated jargons. So, we are going to cut through the hype and talk about how AI can actually serve you, whether uh, you are a small business owner, a solopreneur, a mom building a side hustle, or someone who's simply curious but maybe a little intimidated by the technology. And to help us do that, I'm joined by someone truly incredible. Please welcome Gina Cano. So, welcome to the show, Gina.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. This is what are we talking about? It's this little buzzword called what? Artificial intelligence. I've never heard of it, Avik. What is that? You can't go anywhere or do anything without someone somewhere talking about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I'll say a first generation. Dear listeners, like, I'd love to introduce you, Gina. So, Gina is a first generation Latina tech executive, transformation strategist, and the creator of Unapologetic Tech. And her story is extraordinary. So she's led global teams, spearheaded multimillion-dollar initiatives, and built the powerful frameworks like Gina and Badass.
Mhm.
That are inspiring leaders everywhere to embrace the culture as their superpower and lead from the authenticity. So I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show again, Gina.
Thank you so much again. I'm so excited for the opportunity.
Amazing. So, Gina, like you often talk about like how AI isn't just for the tech insiders, but it's for everyday innovators. Like for someone who feels totally left out of the AI conversation, where do they even start? If you can share.
Yeah, that is something that I've seen that's just been eating away at me. I would say not just AI, but in technology in general. If I may, I'll start back to where this curiosity's always been and where I've seen the opportunity. I grew up in a small town called Beeville, Texas. It's in the southern part of Texas. Population was like 13,000. It's small, probably the neighborhood in most communities now or metropolitan areas, right? It's just like a subdivision or an apartment complex. And when I was going to school and in high school, there wasn't a lot of technology focus. Obviously, that was several years ago, but nonetheless, there was no kind of technology path. And fast forward to today, that's still very much true. While most of the students are using various, you know, laptops or tablets of some sort, or even some of their phones, the technology focused or the technology conversations are still very limited. And that's because if we really look at a lot of the conversations around AI or technology, it's very, very scary in the sense where we use all the big buzzwords like large language models, agentic AI, right? AI is going to take your job. And so that's going to scare people. So where I'm coming from, where I see it, is my goal is to demystify it and make it accessible for everyone. Whether you are a first generation college student trying to navigate how to apply for financial aid or scholarships or even how to apply, if you are a English as a second language, a parent or student who needs to fill out forms for school and maybe don't necessarily know how to navigate, that's where it can come in. But how does one get started? That's probably the number one question we hear all the time, right, Avik, is, well, how do I get started? I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I'm not a technical person. That's the number one thing I hear all the time. I'm not technical. Well, the easiest way to get started is to be curious. Just to be curious. You could easily go, if depending on where you are around the world, Google is absolutely accessible. You're using AI today. Anytime you say, "Hey Siri," guess what? That's AI. If you have Netflix and it's recommending different shows, that's AI. If you are using or you shop on Amazon, Alibaba, or any of these other platforms and you get recommendations, guess what? That's AI. So you're already using it, but oftentimes you don't realize you're using it in everyday life already. And if you want to continue using it more, you just need to be curious.
Very true. Lovely. Yeah. And I mean, so if you can also share, like, how do you help people move past that uh, initial fear or maybe the intimidation? Because I mean, well, let's be honest, like when you are already overwhelmed running a business or balancing the life, the last thing you want is one more complicated thing to learn. So,
Mm,
what do you say?
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's like, "Ah, I don't want to use another tool. I already have so many things to do. I'm already so behind here. I am not technical and stuff." So, what I've started building for Unapologetic Tech and the platform is really making it easy, focused on the outcome that a small business, a parent, or a student would be looking for. So, when you put it in perspective of how is it going to help them, how is it going to help them ease their day to day so they're not as busy, then sparks an interest, right? But like everything in human nature, well, what's in it for me? Why should I take the time to learn this, or why invest in this? Because I'm very busy already. But if you can show how it can give you time back to go do something else that you really like doing, like your actual small business, if you have a nail salon shop, right? Or you have a coffee shop or a barber salon, landscaping business, construction, plumber, electrician, welder, all of those, the people that are doing that, that's what they love. That's their passion. That's why they're doing it. But then they get "Oh, I gotta follow up with this customer. I need to send this quote. I need to create an invoice. I need to do." So then that becomes burdensome, right? They become overwhelmed, and so then they don't get to do what they actually love. So if we start connecting the dots, that's what I call myself, Avik. I'm a professional dot connector, and connecting the dots to say, actually, this is where AI can help you. It can auto respond to some of these emails for you. It can help generate the initial quotes, invoices, follow up on some of these administrative tasks that, well, none of us really like doing. So you can focus on the fun stuff that really gets you excited. Then folks are more on board with me and they're like, okay, now I want to learn more. What do you mean? How will it help me? And that's when the conversation really starts to take off.
Exactly. And I mean, I have to say, I mean, this is so relatable. Like, I think a lot of listeners right now are probably nodding their heads because it's very easy to feel like AI is this mysterious, like, elite club. But the way you frame it um, makes it feel accessible, almost like we have been overcomplicating thing, right? Uh, and that's such a kind of refreshing perspective.
Yeah, I think because there's so much buzz out there, right? It's tech. It is. It is a very complicated technology. There's no denying that from behind the scenes. Being able to have these large amounts of data sets and creating these large language models and being able to train and get the insights and all of those things that come into AI. There's a lot. But the everyday user doesn't need to worry about how that is. In fact, one of the analogies that I've used many times that my one of my executive leaders one time said was, "Don't tell me how don't tell me how the watch is made. Just tell me what time it is." So that would go the same thing for when anyone's trying to figure out how to use AI. Don't worry about all the technical jargon of all of the stuff that happens on the back end. Recognize where it's gonna help you from the front end. How is it gonna make your life easier? What are things you can do? And obviously, we have to be safe about it, so the more you can educate yourself to understand it, it's just gonna give you back time, and time is the most precious commodity any of us have in our lives.
Very truly said, yeah. And like Also, you have been really open about the cultural and the emotional barriers that can hold people back from embracing technology. So, for
Mm.
communities that have historically been excluded from the innovation, how do you even begin to rewrite that story?
Yes, yes, and that's probably my number one passion and purpose of what I'm trying to do. Again, growing up in the small town that I did where technology wasn't and still isn't very much in the forefront of this is the career path you should take and here's where you should go. And especially when you come from a family where maybe you come from an immigrant family where you're the first generation to even go into this world, even though we've been raised around technology, but not necessarily have access to it, or it hasn't been something your family has had access to. So I believe from a cultural perspective, what happened, it's not because our ancestors, or and I wouldn't say ancestors, our family and generations before us don't want us to embrace and use technology. It's because they don't understand it and they're afraid of it. And human nature, again, when we're afraid of something or we don't understand something, we tend to avoid it or try to steer those away. So in order to go through that is what I'm working on Unapologetic Tech is putting it in language that everyone can understand. So I'm going to use a general contractor example because my daddy is a general contractor. That's all I've seen my whole life, right? So I have analogies left and right, Avik, where I can think of from a general contractor building. So I was trying to explain AI to my dad. Specifically, I was trying to explain to him like Chat GPT, right, of how it would work. And in the construction world, you have your general contractor who will hire an electrician, who will hire a plumber, hires all of these different experts that are experts in that world. But they also have what's known as a gopher, right? Go for this, go for that, right? So that's the slang or the terminology used in some construction sites. So I explained to my dad AI, or in this instance, ChatGPT, treat it like your gopher. They're going for information to help you, the ultimate decision maker, decide what you're going to do. You're still the one that's going to decide whether or not you're going to take an action. You're still the one in charge of the direction you're going to go. But assistants like AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, you know, DeepSeek, fill in the blank, there's so many out there now, they help you go find the information you need to make better decisions. And when I explained it like that to my dad, he went, "Oh, okay." Then I took it a step further and say, and then you can just have a conversation. So it's like you and I, Dad, are having a conversation. Ask your question. How would I do this? Where would I do that? What happens if I do this? I said, you just start asking questions. And the more detailed, the more structured, and the more background you provide with your question, the better answer you get. So just like in real life, said if you ask me how was your day, I might just say fine. But if you ask me how was your day, did you do anything exciting? Did you go anywhere fun? My conversation and my answer is going to be a little bit more in depth. And when you break it down into real world type of tangible experiences, the aha moment happens and the light bulb starts to go off and it's not as scary anymore. So that's the approach that I've been taking, and I found that it's been really successful. I do the same thing with plumbers, electricians, welders, businesses of all flavors, that is really the ones that are overlooked in the tech space. And I don't want those businesses, those individuals, those communities to be overlooked.
Exactly. Yeah. And also do you ever encounter pushback from the people who feel like AI is not for them because of their background or level of tech exposure?
Oh, yeah. All the time. All the time. That's like the number one thing if my grandmother or my grandfather was still with us, they would definitely be telling me, "Oh, no, that's not for me. I don't wanna learn that and stuff." And then I would use the example like I used with many of them. I remember when my parents I was first trying to get them to change to get rid of the fax line, right? Because I've always had a fax line. I was like, "Mom, Dad, you don't need a fax anymore." But no, this is mine. I need this because what if somebody wants to send me a fax or stuff? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. It's just it's scary. But if you break it down into little chunks, something that's not so overwhelming, and you help them see little examples of how they're using it every day already, again, like the Siri, like the Ask Google, Alexa, any of these, most of them might be using it already. It's just helping them recognize that. And in some instances, this goes with anything, whether it's AI, whether it was the internet changing from the route they go through every day to go to the market. Sometimes folks just don't want to change, and that's okay, right? That's okay. But we have to at least do our best to try to help them understand and remove the fear. And the way you do that is don't make it scary, don't make it complicated, just make it simple. Keep it simple. You don't need to know again. You don't need to know how the watch works. They just need to know what time it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Ah, and a lot of headlines about make AI sound scary, like it's going to take over jobs, kill creativity, or widen the gap even more. So,
Mhm.
how do you help people reframe AI as a tool and not as a threat?
Yeah, that's, as I go through this and I actually wrote an article the other day on my LinkedIn talking about a lot, and there is truth to this. A lot of the entry level task kind of roles in career starters that we know, yesterday and even part of today can and will be replaced by AI. No doubt about it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just a task. And so what I tell folks is it can absolutely replace some of the mundane kind of task stuff, but it can't replace your ability to ask questions. AI, it doesn't matter how sophisticated it is, it's still trained on with what we've taught it, right? The data that we've given it. And in order for it to get data, well, you're going to have to be able to ask questions. And so I tell them instead of worrying about, oh no, I'm not going to be able to be a data entry person. No, but you can be a prompt engineer. You can really figure out the art of prompting, of how to get the most insights out of this, right? So you're not losing the ability to have a role in this position. You can find a new opportunity in this position, right? The ability to tell the story. Again, AI can absolutely give us all the insights, but being able to have that ability to connect the dots and tell the story of why this matters, how it impacts, AI can't replace that fully. So it's just changing the perspective. Yes, some of the tasks that have been used today, some of the entry level roles are going to go away. Absolutely, that there's no hiding that, but it doesn't mean that you can't find another path. And it's just always looking at it from a different perspective.
True. Yeah. And
Yeah, and it's hard sometimes for people to wrap their head around it because again, if you look at, you know, underserved communities or folks that don't necessarily have access or they think that the entry level that was going to help them get in isn't, well, yes, if we just look at it from that lens, but if you look at it from a different lens, no, there's plenty that you can bring, especially from a cultural point of view. The more we bring in other cultural points of views, perspectives, the better the output for all who are using AI are gonna get. Because remember, AI is learning with everything we put in. All the data we put in helps the overall large language model get better. So, it's more important now than more than ever that we bring in multiple cultural points of views and perspectives. That way, it's not gonna be biased one way or the other.
exactly. Hmm. So and like for those who still feel like they are behind the curve, so what would you say to remind them that it's not too late and that they can catch up and thrive?
It's never too late. It is never too late. It's there's always an opportunity to learn something. I myself have been a student my whole life, right? Always growing, always thriving. So again, you don't have to be the expert at knowing the ones and zeros and thinking it's too late for me. You know, I'm not in the corporate space or I'm not here, so I can't do this. No, you can. Use it in some way, shape, or form. Be a lifelong student, right? And you'll never look at it as it's too late or you're behind. Just be a lifelong student of always learning and being curious. And I can guarantee you're never going to be behind because yes, tech's always going to evolve. Avik, you and I both know, and everyone listening, tech, and I think it's evolving even faster. So
Yeah.
none of us are ever going to know the latest and greatest. We're not. It's just impossible. There's just too much out there, but recognize that you don't have to be the smartest one in the room.
Hmm.
You just gotta be willing to be to take a step into it and learn and understand and look. So, yeah, don't look at it as I'm falling behind because I don't know everything, but rather look at it from the point of view of I might not know everything, but I know more and I'm gonna learn every day.
Exactly. Yeah. Amazing. And wow. And any suggestion you would like to share with the listeners today?
Yes, yes, I would say the most important thing is to be curious, right? That's been the theme that you've heard me say that this whole conversation is you can't break it,
Hmm.
right? That's the beauty part of all of this. You can't break it because it's there, it's learning, right? So ask questions. Just go start trying using the various tools. Use them in different capacities. If you want to figure out how to do anything, before we used to say there's probably a YouTube video out there that somebody's doing it somewhere on TikTok, somebody's done it. Just
Hmm.
ask the question. The very easiest, at a minimum, what you can all do today, depending on where you are around the world and where you have access to it, whether you're using Google or using an Apple version or Chat GPT, whatever it is, open it up and just start asking questions. That would be the simplest way to get started. So don't hide from the tech. Just be curious and start using it. The sooner you start using it, the sooner you realize, well, it's really not that scary. And I'm using it every day. And the next time you open up your GPS to map going from your home to a restaurant or whatever it is, remember you're already using AI. And you can tell everybody, yeah, I use AI every day. I use it when I'm mapping my route from location A to location B, or if I'm streaming something, it's giving recommendations. So ask questions, be curious, and just start using it. You can't break it.
Exactly. Lovely. Great, great. And so I have to say, Gina, I mean, this is really, really incredible. And you have given us not just the tools, but a whole new way of looking at AI. One that personal, virtual, and empowering. And for everyone who is listening, you belong in the conversation about innovation. So AI isn't just for the Silicon Valley or the kind of big corporations, but it's for you, the everyday innovators building something meaningful. So, if you want to learn more about Gina's work, then check out Unapologetic Tech and her frameworks like Gina and Badass. Trust me, they will shift the way you think about leadership and technology. So, thank you so much for joining us today, dear listeners. And if you have loved this episode, please share it with a friend, family, or someone who might need this message. And uh, let's keep building a world where technology works for us, not the other way around. And Gina, like if someone wants to connect with you, what would be the best medium?
The best way to get started is just go to my website, ginacano.com. It'll connect you to all of my various socials as well as to Unapologetic Tech and some of the podcast and YouTube videos I'm putting out there, as well as access to my recently published book, Unapologetically You, Your Guide to Rise Without Compromise. So check out ginacano.com.
Amazing. Lovely. Great. So, dear listeners, I'll put all the links into the show notes for easy reference. And until next time, stay inspired and stay Unapologetically You. So thank you so much.